Where was I? Oh, yeah. Zombies. Stuck in the basement of the big building. We're trying to figure out why some people are successful at returning from their foraging and why some people are not. We're going to run a 3 by 3 by 2 ANOVA, a factorial ANOVA. Our DVs are continuous, the number of missions successfully returned from, and these are all categorical variables. We're going to call the weapons category A, tactics B, whether they were alone or not, C. So those are our three categorical variables, or nominal variables. If you recall, weapons, there were three sublevels, or three levels, right? Loud weapons, quiet weapons, and handheld weapons. So there's three levels of IVA. Tactics, there were smash and grab, hide and seek, and stealth. So there's three levels of tactic, or IVB. And for IVC, whether they alone or not is just two levels. It's either yes or no. So now we have to look at our data. So here's A split up into its three levels, right? These are all loud weapons. These are all quiet weapons. These are all handheld weapons. And B1 is smash and grab. B2 is stealth. B3 is hide and seek, right? So you can look at this category here. So this first one is A1, B1. Those are all the people that took loud weapons and did the smash and grab. This is took loud weapons, did the stealth. This is loud weapons, did the hide and seek, etc., etc. So if we pick this one, A3, that means they had handheld weapons and they did stealth. Okay, so that's how we're going to break this data down. So C1 is going to be whether they were alone. C2 if they were in groups, right? They were not alone. So let's go ahead and put some real data in. So let's try to explain this. So this column right here means that this person did the smash and grab with the loud weapons and he returned 7 times. This one, she returned 4 times. This one, 5 times. This one, 6 times. So this row means they went with the loud weapons, but they tried stealth. And this is how many times they successfully returned. So this is how they all work. Let's just go ahead and fill them all in. Bam. So now we have a ton of data. So if I pick any column at random, let's pick this one. What this means is that they were not alone. They went in groups. A2 means that they had the quiet weapons, like the bows and arrows and the boomerang, and they did the hide and seek. So this is the number of times they successfully returned. Oh boy, that guy did not return. Bummer. So what we have to do with each one of these cells is we have to build we have to take data from it. We're going to plug it into a source of variance table. For a three-way ANOVA, it looks kind of complicated. You might want to hold on to your chair here. I'm not going to go over the exact thing on the source table. You guys should know this by now, especially if you do need help, go back and look at the two-way source table that we made. But here's our different sources, right? IVA, B, C. The dreaded interaction. Three-way interaction. This one is our within group variance, or our error term. And these are all the different bracket terms that we're going to have to calculate from the numbers that we just saw. Degrees of freedom. Remember, the mean squares is simply the sum of squares for each source divided by its specific degrees of freedom. That gives you your mean squares. And to figure out what the F is for each one of these sources, it's your calculated mean squares here divided by your error term down here. Let me show you where that is. Just remember that this next to the last row here is always the error term. And this MSE, this MS sub E, is the mean squares for this row, the error term. And so when you do your calculations for your source table, every one of your calculated MS's here, you're going to divide each and every one of these by this same number here. And that's going to give you an F for each individuals. Our next duty is to calculate all the bracket terms from these cells. All right, let's get started. So at A1B1, that's this little column right here, right? A1B1, just at the C1 level, we need to calculate the mean, the sum, and the sum of squares of this column. Not that hard to do. Okay, the mean is 7 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6. That is 22 divided by 4 is 5.5. We're going to add them up. That looks like 22 is a sum. The sum of squares is you're going to square them first and then add them up. So it's going to be 7 squared plus 4 squared plus 5 squared plus 6 squared. Comes out to be 126. We need to do this for each and every one of these little columns in here. Ding, 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 ding. So we're going to make a new table. It's going to look something like this. So here's the C1 group. We'll do the C1 group first and then the C2 group second. But here is the A1 at B1 level, A1 at B2 level, A1 at B3 level, etc., etc. We're going to calculate those numbers for each of the cells like this first. Remember, we're going to get the mean, the sum of squares, the mean, the sum, and the sum of squares for each one of those little columns. And here's a better looking idea of what we're going to do right now, right? So C1, C2. You'll notice I put in a new row, a new column here. We're going to do row totals, and we're going to do column totals. We're going to need those for our final calculations. But remember, for each one of these cells, we need to find the mean, the sum, and the sum of squares. It's a lot of calculating. We already did the first one. We can go back and do the second one. So the mean is 2 plus 4 is 6 plus another 6 is 12. Divided by 4 is 3. And if we add them all up, that's 12. If we square them first, then add them up, we get 38. So in order to make this as short as possible, I'm going to do them all in my head. Bam! That's right. I can do this. I have this power. Don't be jealous. So let's find out what the column totals are. We're going to just add up the sums of each group to get a column total. Okay, let's move to the next column. We add those up. 12 plus 18 plus 36 is 66. Again, I'm going to do this at the speed of light. Well, maybe not. Bam. So there are our column totals. We're going to repeat the process. This time we're going to find the row totals. Right, we're adding this way. And let me just do them all real quick. Bam. So those are all our different row totals. So remember, these are for C1, these are for C2. Same with these down here, okay? Now, this one box in the bottom right-hand corner, this is what I'm going to call the grand sum of C1, grand sum of C2. We're just going to add down this way. It should equal adding across this way. Let me do that in my head real quick. And yeah, that looks right to me. Let's do that and that. So now we have some grand sums here. All right, I think we're heading to a stopping spot here, but just remember this. That these are the results from C1, right? The mean of each little column, the sum of each little column, the sum of squares for each column, and this is for C1, and this is for C2, because we're going to have to rewrite this column here next, so I'm going to save that for the next video. MGZ, watching the zombies, out.